It's going to be a little bit different, this recording. I'm consolidating my songs onto YouTube in one place, and so I've been going through and seeing what songs I wanted to do. And as I was doing it, I was thinking about a conversation I had. It was a while back, but I had this conversation with somebody who was asking me about my songwriting and how I develop songs, because I do a lot of songs that are strictly scriptural songs. Some of them are based on scriptures, and some of them are almost verbatim out of the scriptures. I think of my version of John 3:16 and 17. It's almost word for word. In fact, it's probably word for word for some of them versions. So anyway, as I was thinking about that, I started to think, just in the last couple of days, I've been thinking about how songs come to me, and how I develop those songs, especially since I've been looking at some of my older songs and kind of revamping them lately. And this song came to mind when I was thinking about how I could explain maybe some of the ways that I develop a song. A few Passovers ago, I was reading the account of Jesus and the disciples celebrating Passover, and during which time, at the end of the Passover meal, they sang the Hallel. They sang a hymn, and it's traditional to sing Hallel, which is Psalms 113 through 118 in the book of Psalms. And so I started to look at those psalms, and actually, as I was reading them, many of them came up with great ideas for songs that we could sing. And excuse me, I need some coffee. So the one that I wanted to share with you today and kind of develop and show you how the process came about with this song is one that was called the Passover Song, which is Psalm 114. And I'll read it to you, and then I will show you how, after reading it, how I did the process of creating a song out of it, a new song out of it. When Israel came out of Egypt, Jacob's house, from a people foreign speaking, Judah became his sanctuary, Israel his dominion. The sea saw and fled, the Jordan turned back. The mountains skipped like rams, the hills like lambs. Why was it, O sea, that you fled? O Jordan, that you turned back? O mountains, that you skipped like rams? O hills like lambs? Tremble, O earth, at the presence of the Lord, at the presence of the God of Jacob, who turned the rock into a pool of water, the flint into a spring of water. And that's it. That was the Psalm 114. So as I was reading it, actually, I could envision the Lord taking the people of Israel out of Egypt, and out of this foreign land, to bring them to the land of their own. And in it, I could hear a melody develop with the image. And then as this melody came, it was pretty much like what you would hear in a movie, but it developed into something more than that as I started to work in the song and work in the melody. But as I was hearing and envisioning this event of Israel marching out of Egypt, and I know some of you even think when I mention that, you have the visions of Cecil B. DeMille and the Exodus story and how they were led out of Egypt. And in some ways I see that. I see more of a more up-to-date version of that, I guess. A more not contemporary version, but I see something that's not so Hollywood, but more trying to get a more realistic view of it, of the children of Israel walking out of Egypt. And but I heard that song, and it had to have kind of like that Mideastern flair, so I knew it had to be kind of in a minor key. And of course there's that whole idea of people and animals walking in a crowd out of Egypt, so it'd be on a journey. And as I started to do that, then I started to hear the song, and it's pretty easy when you hear the words, right? When Israel came out of Egypt. It has a rhythm already, even in its translation. When Israel came out of Egypt. The house of Jacob from... Well, it couldn't be a foreign people. Rhythm-wise, it didn't work, right? So I had to keep with the same image, though. One version of the scriptures, one translation says, from a people of a strange language. And I thought, strange language, strange, that's still too many syllables to go with the rest of the lyrics. A strange land. When Israel came out of Egypt. House of Jacob from a strange land. Now the next verse is pretty easy. Judah became his sanctuary, and Israel his dominion. His dominion. No, that doesn't quite work, does it? Well, where are they heading? They're heading to where God promised them. And what is his promise? It's the promised land. Even spiritually, right? We spiritually enter into his rest, enter in through Jesus, our Messiah. We enter into the promised dominion, the promised land, the promised kingdom. That's pretty good. And that's where the song started. That's how the song got started. I was thinking about those. I was thinking about those images, and I got the chorus going. But then as I started to work on the song, I kind of could hear, believe it or not, I could hear a more contemporary sound, maybe folk sound. But really, I didn't want it to really sound like a folk song. I really wanted it to sound more jazzy, right? In fact, I could hear a swing band playing this song. And even though I don't have a swing band behind me and I don't play in a swing band, I had that kind of feel for it. You know, I kind of could hear that. I could hear the clarinet, and I could hear the horns. And I could hear them kind of whining in the background, kind of like a flowing between a bluesy sound and a swing jazzy sound. And that is how this song came about to sound like this. When Israel came out of Egypt, the house of Jacob from that strange land, Judah became his sanctuary, and Israel his promised land. When Israel came out of Egypt, the house of Jacob from that strange land, Judah became his sanctuary, and Israel his promised land. The sea looked and fled, the Jordan turned back, the mountains they skipped like rams. Oh, the sea looked and fled, and the Jordan turned back, and the hills they skipped like little lambs. Oh, the hills they skipped like little lambs. Oh, 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 tremble, oh, earth, tremble, oh, you earth, tremble before the Lord. Oh, tremble, earth, tremble, oh, you earth, before the God of Jacob. Ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da. Now, when Israel came out of Egypt, the house of Jacob from that strange land, Judah became his sanctuary, and Israel his promised land. Oh, the sea looked and fled, the Jordan turned back, the mountains they skipped like rams. Oh, the sea looked and fled, and the Jordan turned back, and the hills they skipped like little lambs. Oh, the hills they skipped like little lambs. Oh, tremble, earth, tremble, oh, you earth, tremble before the Lord. Oh, tremble, earth, tremble, oh, you earth, before the God of Jacob. Oh, the rock he turned to water. Oh, the rock he turned into fountain of water. Oh, the rock he turned to water. Oh, the rock he turned into a fountain of water. Oh, tremble, oh, earth, tremble, oh, you earth, tremble before the Lord. Oh, tremble, oh, earth, tremble, oh, you earth, before the God of Jacob. Well, when Israel came out of Egypt, the house of Jacob from that strange land, Judah became his sanctuary, and Israel his promised land. Oh, Judah became his sanctuary, and Israel his promised land. Whew. So, as you can see, that's what the final product was, Psalm 114, and it gives that image, doesn't it? I mean, every time I sing it, it gives me that image of deliverance and of heading toward a new thing, heading toward the promises of God. And so, I hope this was enjoyable for you, and shalom.